Jesus and his disciples left for the villages around Caesarea Philippi. On the way, he put this question to his disciples: "Who do people say I am?" And they told him, "John the Baptist." Others said, "Elijah." Others again, "One of the prophets." "But you," he asked, "who do you say I am?" Peter spoke up and said to him, "You are the Christ." And he gave him strict orders not to tell anyone about him. And he began to teach them that the Son of Man was destined to suffer grievously, to be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and the scribes, and to be put to death, and after 3 days to rise again. And he said all this quite openly. Then taking him aside, Peter started to remonstrate with him. But turning and seeing his disciples, he rebuked Peter and said to him, "Get behind me, Satan, because the way you think is not God's way, but man's." He called the people and his disciples to him and said, "If anyone wants to be a follower of mine, let them renounce themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For anyone who wants to save their life will lose it. But anyone who loses their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it." It's very easy for all of us to think, "Oh, I'm a follower of Jesus. I've taken up the cross. I'm going to save my life." But actually, if we follow this piece of the scriptures right through, there are lots of lessons here. There are lots of things for us to contemplate. You remember last week we had the healing of the man who was deaf and the tongue caught by the ligament. And again, Jesus is on a journey, as he was then too. And this time, instead of bringing someone for Jesus to heal, Jesus asks them some questions. So he wants to know, what are people saying about me? Now, he's not wanting to know this in order to be bigger than he is. He's setting a scene for the next little bit. Because he's asking them to have faith in him so that they can hear the hard things he's going to say. He teaches them that he's going to suffer. Remember last week the people were all amazed, he's done great things, they praised him, they were adulating him, and here he is saying, actually, this is not going to last. I'm going to have a tough time. And he also makes reference to the fact that he's going to die, then rise again, which the Jewish people would have caught the understanding of the temple. The temple was going to be knocked down, then rebuilt. God tells Peter to get behind him when Peter says, "Oh, don't talk like that, Lord." Because God wants Peter to recognize that life has many facets. Life is precious, and we still have to fight to grip onto it at times. The last couple of sentences, "If anyone wants to be a follower of mine, let them renounce themselves and take up their cross and follow me." That is extraordinarily challenging. Because if I take up the cross of Jesus, I am going to end up on the way to Jerusalem, meaning the way to death to myself and life for others. Death to my own wishes, death to my sinfulness, death to my overbearing ways, death to my pride in myself. And I have to get back to being really humble, being grounded, being in the humus of the earth and recognizing who I am before God, and that God tells me my life is very important to God. I think a lot of us are brought up with very negative ideas about ourselves and our lives. But this is an invitation to be a follower of Jesus, to stand in his shoes and recognise that we are accompanying him, but more especially he is accompanying us on our journey. So let's have confidence this week. Let's know that God is with us through his Son Jesus. Let's know that we are precious and our world is precious, our planet, our universe. We are so, so lucky. Gratitude is a wonderful way to stay in touch with God.